My stepmother threw me out in the freezing cold wearing nothing but a thin dress. I was begging on the street corner when a black Rolls Royce pulled up. The billionaire inside looked at me, and his face went white. What he said next changed everything. This is my story. Before we begin, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because you won't believe how this story ends. And stay until the very end. There's a twist that will leave you speechless. My name is Trinity Morrison, and 3 years ago, I thought I was getting a second chance at having a complete family. My mama passed when I was 15, and it was just me and my daddy for 4 years. He was my everything, my protector, my best friend, the man who taught me that kindness costs nothing but means everything. Then he met Denise at a church function, and I watched my father fall in love again. I was happy for him. I really was. He deserved to smile again after all those years of grief. Denise seemed nice enough at first. She had a daughter named Courtney, who was 2 years younger than me, and Daddy thought we'd be like sisters. The wedding was small but beautiful, and for about 6 months, things felt almost normal. Almost. But then Daddy died in a car accident on his way home from work one rainy night, and everything I thought I knew about my new family shattered like glass. The woman who cried at my father's funeral, who held my hand and promised we'd get through it together, disappeared the moment the last guest left the repast. In her place was someone cold, someone calculating, someone who looked at me like I was nothing more than an obstacle standing between her and everything my father left behind. And Courtney? She followed her mother's lead, treating me like I was the help instead of family. For 6 months, I endured it. The cruel comments, the way they'd eat dinner without calling me, how Denise slowly took over every inch of the house that used to be my home. She boxed up my mama's pictures, gave away Daddy's clothes without asking me, and made it clear that I was living there on borrowed time. I kept my head down, worked my part-time job at the grocery store, and counted the days until I could save enough to move out. But Denise had other plans. It was a Friday evening in January, one of those bitter cold nights where the wind cuts right through you. I came home from work around 8 o'clock, tired and hungry, and the moment I walked through the door, I knew something was wrong. Denise was standing in the living room with her arms crossed, and Courtney was on the couch with this smirk on her face that made my stomach drop. "Where is it?" Denise's voice was ice cold. I had no idea what she was talking about. "Where's what?" "My diamond necklace, the one your father gave me. It's missing from my jewelry box, and you're the only one who would have taken it." My heart started racing. "I didn't take anything. I don't even go in your room." But she wasn't listening. She grabbed my arm hard enough to bruise and dragged me toward my bedroom. She tore through my things like a woman possessed, throwing my clothes on the floor, dumping out my drawers, checking under my mattress. Of course she didn't find anything because I hadn't taken anything. I was standing there crying, begging her to stop, trying to tell her I didn't steal from her, but she wouldn't hear it. "You ungrateful little thief," she hissed in my face. "I opened my home to you, treated you like my own daughter, and this is how you repay me?" That's when Courtney spoke up from my doorway. "Maybe she already sold it. She's probably been stealing from us for months." The accusation hit me like a punch. These people were supposed to be my family, and they were setting me up, destroying me for reasons I couldn't even understand. Later I would find out the truth. Courtney had taken that necklace herself and hidden it. She'd post pictures on social media wearing it a week later, not realizing how stupid that was. But in that moment, all I knew was that I was trapped in a nightmare. Denise grabbed my coat from the closet, then seemed to think better of it. She threw it back down. She snatched my phone off my bed, went through my purse and took my wallet with my ID and the $200 I'd been saving, and then she dragged me toward the front door. I was screaming, fighting, trying to hold on to the doorframe, but she was stronger than she looked, fueled by whatever evil had taken root in her heart. "You want to be a thief? You can live like one. Get out of my house." "This was my father's house. He left it to me." She laughed, actually laughed in my face. "Your father left everything to me, sweetheart. I'm his widow. You're nothing." And then she shoved me out into the cold. I was wearing a thin cotton dress I'd worn to work, a pair of worn flats, and nothing else. It was 20 degrees outside. I could see my breath in the air. I turned around and pounded on the door, begging her to let me back in, to at least give me my coat and my phone, but I heard the locks click. Through the window, I could see Courtney laughing. I don't remember much about that first night except the cold, the kind of cold that gets into your bones and makes you wonder if you'll ever feel warm again. I walked through our neighborhood in shock, my arms wrapped around myself, tears freezing on my cheeks. I thought about going to a neighbor's house, but Denise had spent months telling people I was troubled, that I was on drugs, that I was stealing from her. She'd been planning this. Who would believe me? I had no phone to call anyone, no money for a shelter even if I knew where one was, no ID to prove who I was. I walked downtown because at least there were lights there, people, a sense of safety in numbers even if those people wanted nothing to do with me. I found a doorway next to a closed boutique and I sat down, pulling my knees to my chest, trying to make myself as small as possible. That's how I spent my first night homeless, shivering, crying, praying that I'd wake up and this would all be a terrible dream. But morning came, and the nightmare continued. I was so hungry my stomach hurt, so thirsty my lips were cracked. I watched people walk past me on their way to work, on their way to coffee shops and warm offices, and I realized that I had two choices. I could give up and let the cold take me, or I could survive. So I begged. I sat on the corner of 5th and Main with my hand out, my voice hoarse as I asked strangers for help. Please, anything you can spare. I'm so hungry, please. Some people dropped quarters or dollar bills into my palm. Most walked past like I was invisible. A few looked at me with disgust, like I was trash they had to step over. That hurt worse than the cold. The way people looked at me, the judgment in their eyes, the assumption that I'd done something to deserve this. Days turned into weeks. 2 weeks of sleeping in doorways and under overpasses. 2 weeks of eating whatever I could buy with the few dollars people gave me. 2 weeks of feeling my body grow weaker, my hope grow dimmer, my will to keep going start to fade. I stopped looking at my reflection in store windows because I couldn't stand to see what I'd become. It was a Friday afternoon in late February when everything changed. I was sitting in my usual spot, my back against the cold brick wall of a bank building, my hand out more from habit than hope. I wasn't even paying attention to the people walking by anymore. I was just existing, just trying to make it through another day. Then I heard a car door close. Not unusual, cars stopped at that corner all the time. But something made me look up, and that's when I saw him. A black Rolls Royce was parked at the curb, and a man in an expensive suit was standing on the sidewalk staring at me. Not past me, not through me, but at me. Really looking at me like I was a person, not a problem. He was older, maybe late 50s, with silver streaks in his hair and kind eyes that seemed shocked by what they were seeing. He took a step toward me, then another, and I watched his face go through a series of emotions I couldn't quite read. Confusion, recognition, disbelief, horror. "What's your name?" His voice was gentle, like he was afraid of scaring me. I hadn't had a real conversation in 2 weeks. My voice came out as a whisper. "Trinity. Trinity Morrison." The man stumbled backward like I'd hit him. His driver moved to steady him, but he waved him off, his eyes never leaving my face. "Morrison? Daniel Morrison's daughter?" My father's name coming from this stranger's mouth shocked me into clarity. I nodded, tears already forming because hearing Daddy's name spoken out loud after all this time broke something open inside me. This man, this stranger in his expensive suit, dropped to his knees right there on the dirty sidewalk beside me, his eyes filled with tears. "Oh God! Oh my God, what happened to you? Who are you?" "My name is Lawrence Bennett. Your father saved my life 30 years ago." And then he told me a story I'd never heard. He told me about being a struggling college student walking home late one night. He told me about getting jumped by 3 men who wanted his wallet, his watch, the little bit of money he had. He told me about a young man named Daniel Morrison who heard him screaming and ran to help, fought off those attackers even though he could have been hurt himself, and stayed with him all night in the hospital to make sure he was okay. I tried to find him years later, Lawrence said, his voice breaking. After I made my first million, I wanted to pay him back, to thank him for giving me a future. But he'd moved, and I lost track of him. I made myself a promise that if I ever found Daniel Morrison again, I'd repay the kindness he showed me when I had nothing. He reached out and took my cold hands in his warm ones. Your father would have never let this happen to you. Never. Tell me everything. Tell me how Daniel Morrison's daughter ended up on this street corner. So I did. Sitting there on that cold sidewalk with this stranger who'd known my father decades ago, I told him everything. About Denise and Courtney. About the false accusation and being thrown out. About 2 weeks of surviving on the streets with nothing and no one. Lawrence listened to every word, and I watched his expression change from heartbreak to fury. When I finished, he stood up and helped me to my feet. You're not spending another minute out here. Come with me. He took me to a warm restaurant, got me hot food and chocolate, wrapped me in his coat while we waited. While I ate, he made phone calls. I watched this man who owed my father a debt from 30 years ago move heaven and earth for me. A stranger he'd just met. His assistant, his lawyers, his investigators. He called them all and set them to work uncovering the truth. And the truth came out faster than I could have imagined. Within hours, Lawrence's team found Courtney's social media posts. She'd been stupid enough to take pictures of herself wearing Denise's stolen necklace and post them online. She'd deleted them when she realized her mistake, but the internet never forgets. Screenshots existed, evidence existed, and that was just the beginning. Lawrence's lawyers discovered that Denise had been stealing from my father's estate. She'd forged documents to make it look like Daddy left everything to her, but the real will, the one filed with his lawyer before he married her, left half of everything to me. The house, the savings, his life insurance policy. I was entitled to over $500,000 that Denise had been hiding from me. Within a week, police were at Denise's door with evidence of fraud and theft. I was there with Lawrence when they arrested her. The look on her face when she saw me, clean, fed, standing next to one of the wealthiest men in the city, was something I'll never forget. All that cruelty, all that evil she'd put into the world came back to destroy her. Courtney got charged too for the jewelry theft and for lying to police. Both of them faced prison time. The court ruled in my favor. I got back everything my father meant for me to have. But more than the money, more than the house, what Lawrence gave me was hope. He didn't just help me with lawyers and justice, he became the father figure I'd lost. He offered me a job at his real estate company, paid for me to go back to college, and treated me like the daughter he never had. Your father gave me my future when I had nothing, he told me. Let me help you build yours. 6 months later, I'm thriving. I'm working, I'm studying, I'm healing from everything that happened. I volunteer at homeless shelters now because I know what it feels like to be invisible, to be judged, to have nowhere to go. I help other young women who've been thrown away by people who should have protected them, and I see Lawrence regularly. He's family now, the real kind of family that shows up and stays. That day on the corner, freezing and hopeless, I thought my life was over. I didn't know that my father's kindness from 30 years ago would come back to save me. I didn't know that the worst thing that ever happened to me would lead me to the person who would change my life. Denise thought throwing me out would destroy me, but instead it led me exactly where I needed to be. Sometimes our darkest moments lead to our greatest blessings. Sometimes the kindness we put into the world comes back in ways we never expect. My father taught me that, and Lawrence proved it. And now I'm living proof that your story isn't over just because someone tried to write your ending for you. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and share it with someone who needs hope today. Have you ever experienced a moment where kindness came back to you in an unexpected way? Tell me in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Join our family by hitting that subscribe button. Remember, your story isn't over. The best is yet to come. I'll see you in the next video.